Hey folks, just a quick update for my Kate and Tom's project, and this is a slightly different format to my usual style, which typically involves a lot of post-production. This video is literally filmed in real time with me narrating, then it's run through my auto editor, so it's a little bit choppy in places, but it should give you the gist of the process I'm going through. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, so one of the first things to do is to get the content before I start building anything. And I don't want to get all of the content, but for things like posts and pages, that will be okay. But the custom post types, I don't want to export or import the custom meta for that, so I'm going to have to do that in a different way. But when it comes to posts and pages, that's going to be okay. Now, just to give you a heads up, I've got a sitemap installed on this site, which comes from the Yoast SEO plugin. So we can see we've got posts, pages, houses, which is a custom post type. We've also got seasonal, which is a taxonomy for the houses. Availability, again, that's a taxonomy for houses. We've got category, which is categories for the posts. We have feature, again, which is the taxonomy for a house. We have location, again, which is taxonomy for the houses. And we have type, again, which is taxonomy for houses. And occasion. So there are several things I need to set up, namely the houses. So the houses is one of the important aspects of this particular site. Although I want to pull in the houses content, I don't want to pull in the metadata for the houses, so I will approach that in a different way. But for posts and pages, you can actually use the WordPress import-export functionality, which is pretty good. It basically allows you to export an XML file and import an XML file. So that's what I'm going to opt for the initial import-export. And I've gone ahead and actually done this, but you can go to import. You generally have to install the WordPress import export tool first. Oh, I'm sorry, that's export, that's import. I don't want to import. So this is the original site and this is my custom site over here in two tabs. So I actually want to export from the existing site. So I've installed that, and you can separate this post, the content out into separate elements. It's the post types I'm not interested in. It's only the posts I'm interested in and the pages for the moment. So you can just go ahead and export that, and that'll give you an XML file. You can see I've already gone through this process. And then you simply come over to your destination site, go to tools and import, not export. And again, need to run the importer. So that will install a little plugin. And then you can basically browse to that XML file and go ahead and import that. Like I said, I've already done that. I've uploaded it. So now I just need to check my posts, and we can see that we've got 355 posts. And on the existing site, we have 354. So that's because the extra one that we have is from my initial install, which is installed the Hello World, which is by default when you install WordPress. So we can get rid of that one and ditch that in the bin, empty bin. Now we've got 354, and that matches the source content. So the other thing I was interested in is to make sure that all the metadata came across. So if we check out from the source site, the SEO titles and metadata, we can see that we've got some information there. We don't have any tags, but we do have categories. So if we look at posts, and this is the destination site on the new site, we do have the categories. We've installed the Yoast plugin so we can check out the titles and metadata, and it has all come through. So that will ensure that we have the same URLs when we come to migrate to the new site. So the other thing I need to do is to set up the houses custom post type. So we check these out. We have 674 houses, not the 400 that I originally thought we had. I think we got 400 published, over 400 published. So like I said, I don't want all the metadata for this. I do want all the taxonomies. So what I need to do is to recreate the custom post types, and then I can look at writing a script that will connect from one database to another. And because this is a local database, I can connect two databases, or I can look at a source database and from my destination, and I can create a little plugin for that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. And then I'm going to create the custom post type for the houses first, and then all of the taxonomies, and then I'm going to write this script. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next, and then I'm going to report back. But initially, just using the tools that WordPress provide, you can get an import-export from one site to another and not have to worry about the domains, but you can still retain all of that SEO URL structure. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check to see if the sitemap, if I could spell it, has actually come across. I think I may need to enable this. Oh no, there you go. So we have posts, we have pages, categories, post tags, and author. And some of those are not listed on the source site, but that's just additional information. So that's okay. So if we check out the posts, you can see we got 118 URLs. Sorry, 318. We check out the posts, 318. So that's the blog sorted. That's actually listed by date. So that's a setting. I need to match the actual structure of the URL. So that's one thing I need to look at, and I'm going to look at that next before I write the script for the custom post types. So yeah, when you import or export data from one site and you're recreating it for a new site, it's important to retain that URL structure. So you can see on the existing site, of all the posts, we have the URL and then it goes to the post title in the slug. Now, in the new site, you can see that we've got the URL, but we have the date. So that isn't going to match. So I need to make sure that that works. And that's because basically the permalink structure by default is set to month, day, and time. Or sorry, month and name. So all I need to do is make sure that that's set to the custom structure. No, not custom. I can set that to post name, and that's basically the name of the post. So if I just go ahead and save that. Now if we check the sitemap out, go to the posts. Now we can see that we're picking up the post slug as the title, and that should match what we have over here. In fact, what I'm going to do is just search for one of these slugs, which is going to be a random 10 things to get up to in Canvas Sans. I'm just going to find that. 10 things to get up to in Canvas Sans. There you go. So that matches. We've got an issue here with the images. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm going to need to resolve that. I think when you do an XML import, it tries to upload the images, but so these are all my posts at the moment. Look at my index page. So if we check the source of that out, that image is actually coming from, it's coming from the existing test URL. It's not actually coming from this URL. And I suspect that is because of the way that the import-export XML file is structured. So I will need to resolve that, which I'll do. I'm aware of it and I'll do that at a later date. But actually, in fact, when we do migrate the site, it will be on the same URL. So in fact, it probably won't be an issue. Yeah, I don't think that'll be an issue. So yeah, next thing to do is to do the custom post types. So I'll go ahead and do that. So having managed this site for well over a decade, I know that this site has been developed as an integrated theme, basically. So any customization has been developed in the theme. The theme is called Club Sandwich. Now, all I need to do is to search that folder in VS Code. So I can reveal. No, I don't want to do it like that. I want to set this to search, find in folder. And then all I've done is I've looked up for the function register post type. So as we can see, that's revealed in the Club Sandwich core. We have 4 custom post types: houses, suppliers, availability, and seasonal. So all I need to do is to replicate these functions in my source site. And literally all I'm going to do is just copy those out and add it to an init hook. Now, I'm a plugin kind of guy, so I'm actually going to create this as a plugin rather than integrate it into the theme, just in case, later on down the line, client wants to change their theme, they'll still retain all of their functionality. So all I need to do is to copy that out. So if I pop back, I need to stay in VS Code. This is my original site, and I've got the other site open, which is over here. So I've just created a custom post type and taxonomies, which I'll eventually do, plugin. And that's just a simple plugin to generate the post types. And as you can see, I've already copied in the houses, and I'll need to do the others as well. Now, if you don't know how to create a plugin, quite simply, all you need to do, well, I use WP CLI, and you can do that with a command called scaffold, and you specifically say plugin, and then you can just give it a name, cool new plugin. And that will just bundle everything together and put it into your plugins folder, and then with a little bit of security, and you want to change the header, change some of these variables, header tags to reflect your domain and descriptions, And then you obviously need a little bit of security at the top of here, just so that it's not accessible from a browser. And if we take a look at my plugin, I've already gone ahead and done that. If I just remove that there, I've already gone ahead and done that. So if the absolute path has not been defined, then that means that somebody's trying to access the plugin directly through a browser. Therefore, it's not been defined. So if it hasn't been defined, just exit. So that's a little bit of security that is worth putting at the top of all of your WordPress files. So I'll go ahead and continue adding these post types and taxonomies, and then we'll come back to the script that will import the content for the custom post types. So just to recap, I've created a function here called custom post types taxonomies callback, and I've copied all of the custom post types from the original site. So that includes houses, suppliers, availability, and seasonal. Now, the other thing I need to do is to get the taxonomies. So again, like I did before, this time I'm going to look for, rather than register post type, I'm going to look for register taxonomy, and that's going to look in my theme folder. If I do that, we can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 taxonomies. So if we check that out, now this is my original site. So here we've got register taxonomy for features and houses. And what's going on here? So register taxonomy, feature, houses, hierarchical, rewrite, slug, feature. So let me just look at that function, see what that does. So we register the taxonomy and then hook to the post type and then the arguments. Okay, right. So that's location, and it's going to be hooked to houses, and then we've got our business logic in an array. Okay, cool. So what's the labels all about? Okay, those are the labels then for the locations. Okay, so let me grab the features first. So I guess what the previous developer did was to set the labels up first and then create the taxonomy. Not sure what areas is all about. So options, plugin. Okay, so that's for plugging into some options table. I think that's probably for a setting. So where's options used? If set options at active supplier. Push an array. So it's pushing an array to the area. So where's area? So what's area used for? Okay, I'm not entirely sure what that is used for, but you will just be aware of it, I think. Okay, so it looks like all of the taxonomies have been created in one function. So let me just see what that callback function is fired on in the code. So that function's then called on add post type. So what's that called on? Oh, okay, so it's called on the init hook. Okay, so that's doing what I'd expect it to do. Okay, so it's kind of like a function wrapped in a function, but it's fired on the init hook, which is what the register taxonomy should be fired on. So all I need to do is to carry all of these taxonomies over to my plugin, with the exception of area. I don't really know what that's for, so I'm just going to copy the taxonomy for the moment. So I need to copy these 7 over. In fact, what I'll do is I'll copy the lot out for that whole function. Then I know we're done. So if I go back to the source site, this is my source site, and this is my custom post type hook. So all I need to do is add the taxonomies here. So this is where all the post types are. Now we're getting into the taxonomies, I think. No, that's a post type. Okay, so all my taxonomies are here. So I'm just going to comment this out because just so I know what's going on. Okay, as I say, I don't know what that's for, so I'm just going to comment that out. Okay, so that's it. So all I need to do now is to just activate that plugin. So I need to go back to the site, space code, go to the back end, plugins. That's my plugin there. Set up custom post types and taxonomies for Kate and Tom's. Activate, and here we go. We've got our houses custom post type with the taxonomies attached. We've got our suppliers. We've got an availability period and seasonal. So I'm just going to check to see if we've got actually suppliers in our existing site. So this is the original site. So I'm going to suppliers. I should have checked this earlier. Okay, so that's doesn't look like suppliers is actually being used for anything, so we might not need that custom post type. Seasonal periods, I do believe we use that. Yeah, we do use that. And availability period, I think that's just one custom post type for some reason. So we can probably do away with suppliers, so I'm going to get rid of that in my code. We don't need that one. I don't think that's kind of redundant. It might have been developed for some reason, but it's not used. So I think we can safely get rid of that one. So as we're building something new, we don't need it to keep things clean. So that's a post type for suppliers there. And that's the options we commented out. Okay, so I think we're in a good place. So back to my site. Okay, so next I need to pull in all of this information So I'm going to devise a script and then I'll come back and kind of run through what I've done. Okay, so I'm probably going to just sort of do these videos every sort of half an hour to sort of document where I'm at. But basically what I've done now is created a little helper plugin which is called Cross Database Multi-Site Migration Tool, and this is going to be my kind of tool that I'm going to use for importing or connecting to a local database and then extracting data from a source database and putting it into the new one. The source database being the original site content, and I'm going to use this tool for custom post types and other various things. And the idea is I'm just going to add to this tool. So this is basically, you get a lot of files when you use the scaffold plugin through WP-CLI, but I've also added some code sniffing and stuff like that to check my coding standards. So there's various other stuff, but the important two files that basically are here is the main plugin file, and I've also got a partials folder with an admin form. And basically what this does is will allow me to connect. I'll show you what it does before I go through the code. So it creates a tools or an item in my tools menu called migration tool, and then I put in the input fields to connect to my local database. Then if I click any one of these buttons, the idea is I'm going to add different migration buttons. So these are the same submit button, but it has a different name, and I'll show you the check that I do for that. So if I click this, I then get a message saying, you know, what I've done. And then I've just got a test migration connection. So that's telling me it connected to my database successfully. So I'm a big fan of using Xdebug in my local testing environment. So we can check what's going on here, but if I just run through the code quickly, get rid of that. So this is the main plugin file, and this is basically just standard stuff. We've got a bit of a security thing here. We're creating a menu item in the tools menu, and we're firing a function that is then requiring the admin form, and then we've got all the processing that I need to run when that form is loaded. So if we pop to the admin form, I've got a bit of a security check here, which is just a check against the user, make sure they can manage options. If not, returns does nothing. This is probably overkill. I'm not actually going to use this plugin on any server whatsoever. It's just going to be for my local development, and I'm going to pull the database to the original site and then extract it into this new one and make sure I can test everything before we actually do the proper live switch over to the new site. So there's a little bit of overkill here, but it's always worth adding that security level and getting into the habit of adding security. So onto the form. With any form that is posted to itself, which is the method here, you can do the processing at the top of the page. So that's all I'm doing there is processing the form on the load. So if I do click any one of these buttons with the name, I've got a check in the PHP to check if any one of these has been pressed. If it has, we then do the processing. Otherwise, this will load, but nothing will happen. The other thing I've done is added a nonce field, which is basically just a security, another security habit to get into. It just basically checks if for any cross-site scripting, basically. If this doesn't check true, then the form will fail. So this is kind of like a WordPress security cross-check, cross-site scripting check function. And then basically just all of the elements or the form inputs that I need for the database connection. So password, database name, and then depending on what I actually want to process, I've given different names to these. So what will happen is basically the form processing function will load. If I've clicked the test migration, this will happen. And then this is where we check the referrer to make sure that the nonce checks out. Then we're getting the database credentials, which are set up in another function, which is down here, another helper function, and we're just returning those details. So then if I click any one of these, we just look at, what should we do? We'll test this one first. So if I click something else, we can just see that it runs to this, but don't actually use the database on this one because this is just me testing. I'm just running I'm printing out a formatted bit of text or string with an admin notice, and it just says, yeah, you clicked something else. Nothing to see here. So, and in my database connection, if we click back, So that's exactly what happens there. You clicked something else, nothing to see here. So if I do my database connection, which is actually one of the migrations I'm going to work on next, we get this other function runs, which is this one here, migration test connection. Now here what I'm doing is I'm actually connecting to the database. So this is a good one to check. So I'm gonna use Xdebug to stop at this point to see what happens. Now I've already tested this, I know it works, but did I switch it on? No. So make sure Xdebug is running, which it is, indicated by this little tool bar here. So if I go back, migration test connection, now we get to the database connection, and this is just a PHP class to make a database connection with PHP. So this just creates a class and then adds all of my credentials, and then I then get returned the database details, and then I can then make select database tables and extract data. So that's where I'm at. This is all hooked up. So all I'm going to do now is run step 2, which is going to be, I'm not actually going to need any of this, but I'll leave it at the end because it will just say, I'll put migration was successful. Yeah, so next I'm going to work on actually extracting house custom post type data and then figure out what data I'm going to need to pull in. So I'm going to crack on with that next, and I'll report back in the next video. Right, so we've made a connection to the database and I've got to pull in some data. That's where I'm going to be next. But one thing I noticed is that if I go to my houses, where are we? So if we're on our houses custom post type, one thing that we need to make the block editor aware, otherwise you just get the old editor. We need to make sure that on the custom post type we have show in REST equal to true, and the REST base, which is kind of like an API endpoint for the REST API, set that to houses. And I've done that because at some point maybe we're going to use the API or the REST API to do stuff. I don't know yet, but I've enabled it. Now another thing I need to do is to make the editor aware. Now if I just leave it like that, this is the code that I copied from the existing code base. So if I just leave it like that, I'll show you what happens in the back end. If we go to a custom post type, we'll leave that page. So we go to houses, and I've just created a test house. Now you see that we get the old editor, so that's not really any use to us because we need to be moving in the block editor direction. So what you need to do here is to make sure that it supports the editor. So we need to ensure that that is set. Now that was a bit of a curveball, so if you're aware, hopefully that shouldn't happen to you. So now if I pop back, now we get the block editor. So it's compatible with, or this custom post type is now compatible with the block editor. So that was one thing that just threw me. The other thing is now I need to identify the metadata that I'm going to pull in. So this means I need to go to the database. Now I've got the database here. Now if I've got a query here that just kind of filters out all the kind of data that I'm going to need. Now because this is a multi-site, I know that the data that I want to get the metadata from is from the blog ID 11, which is this table here. So if we just do a query on that table, and this is just one ID, so if I just apply the filters there, you can see that we've got lots of metadata. Now this is just the nature of current custom fields plugin that's used. It kind of doubles up the data that's in there. Not only do we get the kind of like the main key, meta key, but we also get a reference to the meta key with an underscore with this unique ID, and that's just the way that it works. So I don't need all of this information. So I somehow needed to figure out a way to isolate the meta key details that I need. So I did that by setting up a query, and this is just basically getting the meta query, the meta key and the meta value, and we're just going to get it from the post meta table with the blog ID of 11. And I just want to get one post for the moment, just so that I can isolate what's there. So then I'm just using the escape key to remove anything that's got a preceding underscore, and then I don't want the widgets for the moment, so anything that is like widgets with an underscore and then a wildcard character, so anything appended to that, I don't want to see that. And also the availability, which is coming from some calendar data that's going to be referenced through an API, so we're probably not going to need that data. And there were some other bits of data as well that I don't need for the moment. So if I run that query, we get these results. So some of these meta keys I'm not going to need, but just as a test example, what I'm going to want to do is to just see how I can set up a few meta keys and then use the block bindings API to hook data in to a template. So I selected these four meta keys, and I'm going to use those. So then I go back to my code. Now in order to set set up the block bindings API, we need to also ensure a couple of other things. Now, the other thing we need to do is on the post type, we need to enable custom fields. I'll go back a few steps. There we go. We need to enable or make sure that our custom post type supports custom fields. That's one thing we need to do. The other thing we need to do is actually set up register the metadata. So again, it's on the init hook, and there's this function called register meta, and it's on the init hook, but I've actually separated it into a different callback function because I want to kind of keep it separate. So just to make it a little bit more easier to read, what I'm doing is setting up an array of meta keys, and I can just eventually add to these. I can add more keys if I want to, but for the moment, I just want to test with just a bunch of them. So I've selected these 4, and then I'm looping through, and I'm just registering the meta over that loop. So the first parameters, you need to select what object type. I think it's object type. Yeah, the object type, and that's basically whether it's a post, user. I can't remember what other object types there are. I think there's user and maybe options. Anyway, it needs to be post because it's a custom post type, and then the meta, which is going to be the meta that's looped through this array. And then we set an array of arguments, and this is where we can select the object subtype, which is the custom post type that we need, which is houses. Another important thing to do is to make sure that you show in REST, and this will make it appear in the block editor. It's going to be saved as a single string of data, not an array, and also the type is going to be string. And we've also got a sanitized callback, which is using an internal WordPress function, WP strip all tags. That will just clean up that string, make sure there's nothing untoward saved. So with that saved, I can then go back to my site, and what I was in just now was a template just to hook the block bindings up. So what I need to do is to go to the editor, and I set up a template for single item house, which is a single post type for a house, effectively. So I don't want a pattern for the moment. All I want to do is now with all of that hooked up, basically you get this selection here called attributes, and you can select the attribute type, which is going to be content, because it's the content of this block. Now, block bindings only work on paragraph blocks, heading blocks, image blocks, and URLs or links or button links. Yeah. So that's something to be aware of. So you can only actually put custom metadata in a block that's compatible with that. So I'm using the paragraph block for the moment. So with that selected, I can then select which meta key I want to choose that is appended to that. So in this template, what I'm going to put here is I'm just going to put, single house template. And then in this paragraph block here, I'm going to bind the content of that to one of my custom fields, which is going to be sleeps min. And then I'll add another one after that. You see you get this purple line, so that means we can't edit that in the edit. Well, you can remove it, but you can't edit it. So it's just an indication to say that this is bound to a custom field. So after that, I'm going to just carry on and hook up the rest of these others that I've selected. So I want the content of that to be metadata, and I'm going to put sleeps max, and then I'm going to do the same for the others. Turn text location, and then another one, which is the last one, brief description. So with that saved, what I might do actually is just group that just to make it cleaner on the eye, as it were, and then pad it out a bit. Where are we? Padding to do that. And then just for the sake of easy to read, I'm going to put a block in before that, and that's going to be my title. Because we're in a template here, we won't see content. So all I need to do is just to save that, and that's going to be my single house template. So now I can go to my content. So if I go to my houses, I set up a test here, which is just set to draft. And now if I go to the attributes, I go to content, and I want this to be this is a single house. What am I missing? I'm missing something here. Wasn't expecting to see that. I was actually expecting to see the data in there. So let me publish that and see what happens. Go view to house. So it's not binding because I've not actually added that data. Okay, probably, I think. So let me go ahead and debug this. So that is a single item house. Yeah, it's my template. Go to houses, go to test. And what am I missing? Do I need to enable custom fields? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to carry on and debug this, and then I will report back in my next session. Okay, so yeah, I was being a complete numpty. Basically, I was putting the custom fields in my template when that isn't the right place for it to go. In the template should be your kind of like your content title and things like that. And the content should be managed in your single post items, which would, in this case, would be a house post. So, and also you do need to enable custom fields in order to see them in the back end. So anyway, what I've done is I've created a single post with some custom metadata with block bindings. So as you can see here, we've got I've got my 4 block bindings, and they refer to the meta keys in the custom fields block here, which don't need to see that. And they basically refer to these paragraph tags, or sorry, paragraph blocks. So we've got sleeps min. I'm watching this here, sleeps min, sleeps max, and we've got location text, and we've also got brief description. So this is the content. So if I save this out and then we can review that, we kind of get exactly what we want, which is that's the basics of the post setup. So the reason why I did that is because I want to see what actually happens when you bind things in that way in the database. So if we look up that post ID, we can see that we've got our custom fields that pull in the exact same data. Now that will map exactly as it does in my old database. So those fields there are exactly what I want from my old database. So if we look at here, we've got, this is on just one post ID. And actually what I do when I run my script, I'm going to pull in all of these meta keys, may leave some of them out, but I'm going to pull most of them in. And yeah, so I'm going to start devising my script to include importing all of these as custom meta fields or custom post meta. And then I can use that to actually build my pages and patterns in the content area. So that's what I'm going to do next. But that, in order for me to do that, what I need to do is to kind of finish off the actual look and feel of the site. So I've got a design. I've got it actually over on my other screen here. I started building it, but I wanted to sort of hook things up, make sure that I got the logic all right in my head before I actually start writing a script for the actual migration. So the steps I need to take now are, well, what I've done is I've confirmed that the custom post meta goes in to a post type as I'd expect it to. And it's just a case of now creating the site and the patterns. And then once I've done that, I'll then come back to this migration and import a pattern, and I'll identify a widget as for that reason. So that's what I'm going to do next. And yeah, I'll see you in the next session. Just leave that at 5 pixels, I think. Text is way too big. Small text, more padding, more round. Right, I'll just leave that for the moment. We'll clean up all this design later. So I need to get in another block in here, which I'm going to put in a group. So a group in there. I'm going to make that single group. And we've got some logos in there, but that's actually white, isn't it? So I'll leave that empty for the moment. I might just give the background of that group a color. So what I'm doing is actually I'm looking at the visual on my left hand side, and I'm just creating the design based on the visual. So we've got a white panel there, but it's actually got some a transparent white panel, and it's got a fixed header. So to achieve that, I'm going to just drop that in like that. We can't actually see it at the moment. And in order to do this, what I need to do is to give this group a fixed height. I can't do that on a, yeah, I can min height. I wonder if I do it on the row instead. I think I'll do it on the row. So I'll set that. Let's just start at 100 pixels. It's way too big. Come down until we get to... So let's say we got that at 65 pixels. Right. So therefore I want to add another one there, and I want to make sure that that group inside here, which again I'm going to add a row in there, and I'm going to set that row to 65 pixels as well. So in total that will be 120, 130 pixels. Now it's important to know that because when we come to, not 130, 65 in total for both of them. So when we come to place an image in here, I'm going to set that to negative margin because I want that actually to slip underneath this menu. So in fact, I will go ahead and do that now. I'm going to add one after, which will be another group. And this will be an image block inside there. Is it going to be? Yes, it's going to be an image. And I'm not sure if I've got any random images. No, I don't have any. Okay, so I'm just going to take a snapshot of the image that I can see on my Figma file over here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to export it actually. Export image wide as placeholder image desktop. I'm just going to grab that, put that in my exceeds maximum upload size for this site. Are you joking me? What the hell? Come on. How big is that then? 1.6 meg. That's not big. Okay, so this is a multi-site. Right, I get you. So you can set the image uploads through the settings of the multi-site. Somewhere, site upload space, 100 meg, 15 kilobytes. Let's make that 4 meg. Now can we upload? I need to go to my template. Where's my template? Over here. Actually, no, I don't want to put that in the template, do I? Because that's going to change per page. Actually, no, it's the front page, so that's fine. Let's have a look. Where are we? Edit the header, insert image. Here we go. Boom. Sweet. Right. That's not placed in the right place, I don't think. So I've got a group there. What's that? Oh, okay. That's my underlying. That'll be my secondary navigation. So this image here needs to be full width for sure. And then that needs to sit underneath. So I'm going to, do I do it on the group? I think I'll do it on the group. So I'm going to set negative margin on the group at the top. And I've taken the ability off my theme.json to do that. So I'm going to add that back in. I need to go to my code and my theme, which is here, and theme.json. And I've got size settings somewhere. Spacing, is it? Yeah. Custom spacing sizes. I'll set that to true. That should bring back my ability to input a custom setting. So if I save that, refresh the page, select my group, which is that one there, come over to the margins, and can I, where's my custom setting? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I'm just not concentrating. So unlink, top. Now, what does it do on the original site? Do you know what? I hope the new site's going to be quicker than this old site is. Here we go. So you can see we've got this kind of transparency thing going on there, and actually it just sits underneath the secondary navigation. So yeah, I don't have to go 130 pixels. I can just do 765, but to ensure it goes underneath, it needs to be negative. So that's actually sitting right underneath there now. Now we can't see what's going on because I need to take that out of the header actually, and that will be part of my template. So if I'm going to cut that out. Can I do it with the keyboard? Yeah, okay. So that is that page. Now, in order to make this sticky, which it is on this site, we need to group the header. Can we do that? Or can we pin the header? I don't think we can pin the header. Go to advanced. No, we can't pin the header. Can we pin that group? I think we can pin that group, which is in the settings. Sorry, position. That's sticky. And then need to go back to my template, which is this template here. Can I paste a group? No, I can't. Right, so add a group after set the group and image. I can go to the media library this time. Set that to wide or full width rather, and then set that to negative margin. Again, I don't think this will work because we haven't set that as sticky yet. So -65. Yeah, we can't see what's going on there. We can't pin that either. Only one pinned item, I think. Oh no, you can pin two. Okay, so if we just take this image for now, what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this a couple of times so that I got something to scroll against, which is that. Yeah, you see the pin doesn't work, or sticky header doesn't work. You have to set the parent element to sticky in order for it to work. So I need to take that off there, then select my header, and then put that in a group, and now I can set the group to sticky. And that should do, yeah, that does it. I just need to sort out the alignment of this now, which I can go ahead and do. So that needs to be wide for width, yeah, and everything else should work. Perfect. Okay, so I can get rid of all these. Don't need those. And I can carry on with my secondary navigation. So if I look over here, just got to grab an image. I'll save that, which is the tagline. So over on the left-hand side, actually the group needs to be what am I doing? The row needs to be full width. Wide needs to be wide. So in here I've got an image which is my tagline, and then I've got some random what do you call them? I guess navigation, another navigation element, which is going to be after that element. And for now what I might do is just grab that, copy that and paste it in there. Oops, sometimes you just don't work very efficiently, do you? So paste that in there, and that's just gone weird. So what I need to do is just to get rid of the search and a couple of these items, or actually I'll just change them because it is a navigation point but it's a different navigation, so I might leave it like that for the moment, and I need to select something else in order for that to appear. Okay, right, so I'm going to go ahead and carry on building this, and really want to get to the patterns because I want to start importing data. So yeah, I'll carry on building this and I'll report back shortly. Okay, so a quick summary where I'm at the moment after my kind of first day at attacking this. Basically, I've built the structure for the homepage. Now, there are some placeholders that I need to address, and there are a few tweaks, but I haven't input all the houses yet. So until I do that, I can only place placeholders. And again, I've got some placeholders here as well for what will eventually be custom blocks. So I've gone ahead and sort of tweaked the theme.json to sort of reflect the current site, whereby I've pulled in all of the color palettes, and these from the old site, and there is a whole suite of colors, and I've just tweaked some of the font sizes and stuff to match the design, the Figma design, which is actually off screen. You can't see that at the moment, but and I've actually started to look at the core blocks and styled those as well. Because there are some specific radius patterns or design elements and font sizes and padding, etc. And also with some of the blocks, I've had to add some custom CSS just to ensure that it kind of matches the current design. So we've got some border radius, and we've taken the border off, and we've got some padding as well, specific to the search input field. I can show you that. So in here, if you just placed a normal search block, this would be quite a hard edge, and there'd also be a border on it. So we don't want that. Now, this is the current site. I can't show you the Figma. Well, I can, I guess. I can pull this over. It's kind of like, this is the new design. And like I said, this is the collection of houses which will be designed once I pull in houses. So kind of like the next step for me is, where am I at? So if I just get that out of the way at the moment. We go to the site. Now, if we click, I still need to build some templates, but this is my first kind of day at attacking this. So at the moment, there are no templates for the archive pages and also for the houses pages, which I will ultimately do. Once I've got the single pages for the houses, I can then start looking at the patterns and then figuring out my script and how I import that from the kind of current database widgets, which are like, I'll go back in history, find so I filtered out all this metadata, but if we just look at the post meta for that post type on that post ID, you can see we've got lots of this data. I don't need much of this data. I will not need, but yeah, until I get the houses into a single post, I can't start looking at the patterns. But that's kind of like what I'll be doing next. I'll finish off these templates, and then the next video will be a deep dive into the specifics of this script and importing the existing data from legacy widgets into patterns.